The following is produced by 5 Star Productions USA, which is solely responsible for its editorial content and is sponsored in part by a grant from Paul Mitchell Salon Haircare.
There are more than 90 million households in the United States, and at least once a week they come here to the supermarket. Few of us realize the environmental impact we have when we shop. Virtually every time we purchase something, we are predetermining its future effect on our environment. Buying environmentally safe, reusable, and recyclable items, as well as products with reduced packaging, is your environmental contribution. I'm Ed Begley, Jr. Join me this week on Today's Environment as we learn ways you can make positive environmental choices.
Today, City Council is expected
with 9,000
reducing air
supermarkets
pollutants by
recycling a milestone.
80%. Educational programs.
When buying beverages in aluminum cans, select the ones in recyclable cardboard or paperboard cartons rather than the plastic 6-pack rings. You can recycle the cans and cartons, but the 6-pack rings can only be an environmental burden. This type of plastic may never biodegrade and contributes to the death of many seabirds and marine mammals each year. Today's Environment found another way an environmental problem is being avoided.
Imagine business today without the use of computers. Almost impossible, isn't it? They're the lifeline of global communication. We literally stake our lives on their dependability. In the past 50 years, America has watched computers go from the sci-fi movie screen to our living rooms and classrooms, almost without notice. Just imagine if corporate America and the rest of the world still relied on typewriters alone for all correspondence and file cabinets for all record keeping. We would be swimming in paperwork. The introduction of the computer offered many things to the business world. One of the contributions may have been of little relevance then, but today, with landfill space diminishing, it was a paramount turning point for paper reduction. Hundreds of documents could be typed, corrected, and stored, all on one disk. While we still print letters and information, high technology has reduced our usage of paper even more in the past few years by giving computer systems a language of their own and allowing them to communicate within the same office building or across the world. Cisco Systems, Incorporated in Menlo Park, California, has devised just this kind of system for corporations to have immediate access to information from associates located in different cities, states, and countries. Computer networking systems like this save large amounts of paper in the way of letters, reports, packaging, and even stamps every day, not to mention the emissions saved from postal delivery airplanes and motor vehicles. Saving paper saves trees, and cutting back emissions cuts back on ozone depletion and global warming. This is why companies and individuals are taking it upon themselves to use less and recycle more. Since its beginning, Cisco Systems has made recycling part of its policy by having employees separate used aluminum, paper, and glass. By also easing out the use of plastic binders and converting to non-toxic inks, the company is taking a positive approach to environmental issues. Recycling conserves resources from mining and logging to create new products and saves energy, since it takes less to recycle these products than to make new ones. It also keeps solid waste out of landfills. Recycling is also important not only because of the fact that we're running out of room to make more landfills, but because much of that solid waste simply doesn't disintegrate. Researchers unearthing waste buried 40 years ago say plastic bags keep the trash so well preserved that their contents look just like last week's garbage. Even paper bags and thin newspapers remained mostly intact. When buried, paper and plastic emit toxic substances that can pollute groundwater and contaminate soil. The possibility of severely cutting the amount of newly produced products is within our grasp. But in order to achieve this, we must all buy recycled, use recycled, and of course, recycle.
Imagine a typical shopping trip without the packaging. It's difficult, but it can be done. Of course, some packaging is better than others. Foil packages for coffee greatly reduce the size of what you would normally be throwing away. The new boil-a-pouch bags fit food contents perfectly and make cooking easier. Today's Environment visited somewhere that's helping to make our world a better place to live.
We all understand how important it is to keep our bodies in good condition. We know to exercise, eat right, and see our doctor for regular checkups. When we're ill, medical professionals use many diagnostic tools to determine what's wrong. Then they prescribe a course of action to help us get well. In a sense, the planet Earth is very much like our bodies. If we keep it in good condition, it will sustain our lives in good health for many years. But when something goes wrong, we have to diagnose the problem and figure out how to cure it. Unfortunately, we haven't taken very good care of our planet. We've polluted our air and water and introduced a host of other ills in the name of technology and progress. When we began to realize the damage we were doing, the Environmental Protection Agency was created to implement stringent regulations. State and local rules followed suit. We began to be more watchful of agriculture, industry, and other potential sources of threats to the safety of the food we eat, the water we drink, and the air we breathe. Something as familiar to us as a neighborhood service station can contaminate our water if one of its underground storage tanks leaked, and the impact can be severe. Just 1 gallon of spilled gasoline can foul up to 750,000 gallons of drinking water. When a spill or leak is discovered, wells are drilled around the site so water samples can be extracted. The samples are capped to prevent the contaminants from reacting with the air, then they're taken to a testing laboratory. There, analysts use sophisticated testing equipment to generate precise information about the contaminants. A commonly used device is a gas chromatograph, where hazardous substances are purged from the samples and then introduced into the instrument for analysis. This process detects the presence of pollutants and measures the concentration of each one. Just as we count on the accuracy of the instruments our doctor uses to check our health, it's critically important that the testing equipment used in these laboratories perform consistently wherever and whenever it's called upon to check the quality of a water sample or the level of concentration of a dangerous pollutant. In their laboratories in New Haven, Connecticut, AccuStandard scientists produce nearly 6,000 different reference standards for use by researchers and analysts.
AccuStandard produces the calibration test mixtures used to verify that the analytical instrumentation accurately measures the contamination in water, air, soil, and food. Without these standards, the extent of the pollution and the efficiency of the cleanup cannot be evaluated.
Individual substances are isolated, identified, and tested with great care for purity so that their precision can be certified. Materials are produced as solutions sealed in glass bottles or ampules containing up to 70 different chemicals. They also are prepared as pure individual compounds. AccuStandard successfully pioneered synthesizing all 209 individual components of Aerochlor, a brand of PCBs used in electrical transformer fluid. This achievement is of great importance to the environmental scientist. The company's scientists carefully recheck the reference materials they've produced to ensure their accuracy. Only then are the chemical standards ready for use by regulatory agencies, by academic and industrial researchers, and in many other settings. As a result of the development of precise reference materials, scientists have greater confidence in the accuracy and consistency of the results found by sophisticated diagnostic tools. That accuracy helps keep us and our planet in much better health.
Disposable items. That's exactly what they are. All you can do after you're finished is throw them away. There's little room left in our landfills. Avoid disposable products whenever possible. Instead, choose their reusable counterparts, like rechargeable batteries. Here's another way the world is being made a healthier place.
We've heard a lot about the ozone layer in the past few years. Unfortunately, most of the news has been bad. In 1985, we heard there was a hole in the ozone layer over Antarctica the size of all of North America. We've been told that chlorofluorocarbons, or CFCs, a chemical used to cool nearly all of our homes, buildings, and refrigerators, are attacking and wiping out vital molecules in our ozone layer located 10 to 35 miles above the Earth in the stratosphere. Before this evidence came about, CFCs were considered the top chemical for a variety of industrial uses. But now we know that when released into the air, these chemicals break down and release dangerous chlorine compounds that can deplete the ozone layer. Researchers say that even if all CFC emissions were stopped tomorrow, the current compounds would last for as much as 100 years in the atmosphere and build up their concentrations 10 to 30 times their original levels before dissipating. This means that even in this decade, when CFCs are no longer allowed to be produced or used in refrigerators and cooling systems, they will continue to impact the ozone layer for years to come. Industry scientists, therefore, have been busy working to develop alternative products and technologies that are ozone-friendly. To avoid drastic measures like shutting down everyone's refrigerator and air conditioner, the industry is conducting research and development to produce alternative products and to use these products in modified equipment during the 1990s and beyond. Until then, we need to try to get by on the CFCs we are using right now and avoid new CFC production. When an air conditioning repairman services your unit, he captures the refrigerant with a portable machine and looks through a sight glass to see if the CFCs are dirty and need replacing. If not, he carefully pumps them back into your unit, making sure no fumes escape into the atmosphere. If it needs to be replaced, the used refrigerant is contained in a special cylinder and brought to a reclaimer like La Roche Chemical in Gramercy, Louisiana. Here, they're cleaned through a heating process until they're 99% pure and sold for reuse. One alternative to CFCs is HCFC-22, a hydrochlorofluorocarbon, which La Roche now manufactures at their facility. This new refrigerant contains hydrogen which breaks down in the lower atmosphere instead of the stratosphere, and as a result is 90% less damaging to the ozone layer. According to the Alliance for Responsible CFC Policy, CFCs are used in more than 85 million household refrigerators, more than 40 million home air conditioning systems, and almost all cooling systems in public buildings. While the country is set to make a permanent switch over to a safer system, we all need to be aware of the cost. Within the next 10 years, we're all going to be responsible for footing the bill for either new systems or modifiers on our air conditioners and refrigerators. Although we'll have these additional costs over the next decade, we're preserving a sound ozone layer for future generations. What do these impressive structures have in common? Each of them was constructed using a product that is highly beneficial to the environment. It's lightweight aggregate, which is used to replace heavier stone in the making of structural concrete, concrete block, and other construction materials. An 8-inch conventional concrete block is 50% heavier than a block of the same size made from lightweight aggregate, and the lightweight product is equally as strong. More important to the environment, concrete and concrete block made from this aggregate have greater insulating properties than conventional concrete masonry, which means less energy is needed to heat and cool the structure, reducing the amount of fossil fuels burned and helping to reduce oil imports and conserve our natural resources. And because concrete products made with lightweight aggregate are lighter in weight, more can be transported at one time, conserving even more fossil fuel. One of the leading manufacturers of lightweight aggregate, Solite Corporation, based in Richmond, Virginia, adds further benefits to the environment during the manufacturing process. Production of the aggregate begins with the mining of selected deposits of shale, clay, or slate. At the plant, which is located close to the quarry site, the raw material, in this case shale, is crushed and fed into a large rotary kiln which operates around the clock. Here, in 2,200 degree Fahrenheit heat, the shale expands and becomes almost molten. The intense heat also causes thousands of tiny air cells to be formed throughout the rock, which make it lighter in weight and gives it insulating qualities. As further aid to the environment, fuel used in the kiln has been processed from ignitable hazardous wastes, which otherwise would have been incinerated or very possibly disposed of illegally. Using recycled fuel saves coal and oil, conserving the nation's natural resources and other energy alternatives. And using waste as fuel in place of coal and oil rather than incinerating it reduces pollution by eliminating an emission source. Since 1972, over 200 million gallons of waste have been burned as fuel in Solite's kilns, saving approximately 150 million gallons of oil, or almost 1 million tons of coal. The recycled fuel originates at industrial and commercial facilities and includes liquid burnable materials that are used every day, such as paint, ink, waste oils, and solvents. Oldover, a subsidiary of Solite, carefully selects, transports, and stores the wastes in compliance with numerous state and federal permits. The waste is tested and analyzed to ensure that it's in compliance with all permits, that it can be safely used as fuel. The wastes are destroyed in the kilns under conditions exceeding the 99.99% destruction and removal efficiency that's required by the EPA. To maintain clean air, a dry collection bag filter system operates like a giant vacuum cleaner, collecting more than 99% of the rock dust produced when making lightweight aggregate. The dust particles are recycled back into the production process. There's no water discharge, no waste, and minimal emissions. The entire burning process is stringently regulated by U.S. EPA regulations that apply to industrial furnaces using recycled waste fuel. Aside from producing an environmentally beneficial product, through vision, innovation, and ingenuity, Solite and Oldover are two companies that are providing solutions to potential problems in a dedicated effort to protect the environment.
Much of today's packaging is convenient, but not much thought has been given to its disposal and the burden on our decreasing landfill space. New toothpaste pumps may be handy, but they have 50% more packaging than tubes. When you're done with the pump, you still have all this. When you finish with the tube, all you have is this. Let's take a look at another environmentally sound alternative.
In the industrial age, a byproduct of manufacturing is industrial waste. By transporting oil in tankers and trucks, we risk disastrous spills. And in our quest to produce more goods for an ever-growing population, we generate more chemicals and perpetuate a vicious cycle of destruction. As a result, our wastes have infiltrated every aspect of our surroundings, our water, air, and land. The Environmental Protection Agency estimates that tens of thousands of sites across the United States are contaminated with oil, gasoline, and chemicals. Hazardous materials that were once held in large storage tanks have seeped through aged cracks and contaminated much of the soil surrounding our industrial communities. Until recently, most dirt discovered near leaks, oil spills, and contaminated sites was landfilled or incinerated. Landfilling is becoming less acceptable as an alternative because it only hides the problem. The oil or chemicals still exist, just in a different location. Incinerators can be on land or on special incinerator ships. Incinerators destroy chemical waste by burning them at very high temperatures. The primary problem is that using incinerators creates ash that has to be landfilled. Concerns over the danger of the ash and air emissions of incinerators has led industries to look for alternative solutions. A new process by biogenesis cleans the contaminated dirt without having to landfill or incinerate. The new process literally washes the soil. The sand, dirt, clay, or gravel is loaded onto a large tank mounted on the back of a tractor-trailer truck. Inside the tank, the dirt is mixed with water and a special cleanser that is non-toxic, water-soluble, and 100% biodegradable. Air bubbles blow through the mixture to separate the contaminants, which is in this case oil, from the soil, which is then allowed to settle. The oil floats to the top where it's skimmed off and recycled. The remaining liquid drains through the bottom of the unit and is sent to a settling tank where remaining contaminants are removed. The water is reused to clean more soil. The treated soil is tested for any remaining contaminants, and after being certified clean, it's returned to the original site. Results show that after a single washing, 99% of the contaminants are removed. The remaining 1% biodegrades within a matter of days. The biogenesis process can clean up to 35 tons of soil per hour in each machine. The company is looking to further its technology by researching ways to recover heavy metals and pesticides as well. The goal of this system is to solve the problem of hazardous waste contamination by not just moving it to another location for disposal, but by neutralizing the contaminants through an intensive cleaning process. While many approaches have been tried to solve this contamination dilemma, a simple washing solution has brought researchers back down to earth and helped take the hazard out of hazardous waste.
When buying from the deli, have your meat, cheese, and other foods wrapped in paper, not plastic or foam. Thanks. You can even reuse clean deli containers over and over again. Today's Environment looked into another contribution helping our environment.
In the 1960s, scientists came across some disturbing findings. They found that some of the problems with our atmosphere and health were due to air pollution from industrial businesses. With the Clean Air Act, the United States became the first industrial nation to pass laws demanding the regulation of emissions in 1970. Due to this action, there has been substantial decline in the harmful gas, sulfur dioxide, and lead emitted into our atmosphere over the past 20 years. While the areas inside of industrial countries are clearing up, taller smokestacks, because of their height, are still blowing pollutants into other regions. U.S. emissions in the Midwest and Northeast account for about half of the acid rain falling on eastern Canada, and much of the Scandinavian acid rain comes from Britain, Eastern Europe, and the Commonwealth of Independent States. The Environmental Protection Agency is looking for new ways to closely monitor smokestack emissions. They're funding research by Entropy Environmentalists Incorporated to devise a system to measure the concentrations of various gases emitted from the stacks of utilities, recyclers, incinerators, and manufacturing plants. The company has created a mobile unit equipped with a state-of-the-art computerized system to travel to the facilities and conduct testing. Results of the test will be used to help set federal guidelines for various industries and ensure their future. The stack or duct has a port that the researchers open. A glass or metal tube called a probe is inserted through the port and into the stack. The probe is attached to a sample line which draws the gases down to the truck and into the FTIR spectrometer absorption cell. FTIR stands for Fourier Transform Infrared. The spectrometer transmits an infrared beam containing many wavelengths through the sample in the cell. Molecules inside the gas absorb some of the wavelengths. The computer determines the missing wavelengths, which indicate what kind of gases are being emitted. It then graphically displays the results. The data is subject to further analysis to see just how much of the present gases are emitting. Most instruments used in emission monitoring sense only one individual gas or group of related gases. The FTIR detects a much larger range. While a lot of smaller businesses aren't required to undergo continuous monitoring, they do need to take occasional tests and submit forms to the EPA to fall within federal guidelines. Entropy's mobile FTIR unit may allow businesses requiring periodic testing to meet requirements without buying costly equipment and without the long delays associated with many standard laboratory analyses. Government restrictions on emissions are expected to get even more stringent in the next few years. These laws are being implemented in stages so as not to disturb business as usual, but to make our environment a healthy place for future generations to live.
Biodegradable and environmentally friendly. While some products marked this way are not what they say, the best way for you to know what to buy and what not to buy is to educate yourself about the products you're purchasing and to read labels more carefully. I'm Ed Begley Jr. Join me next week as we explore more environmental solutions on Today's Environment.
If you know of any interesting environmental success stories, call us at 407-997-9800. This has been a presentation of 5 Star Productions USA. The preceding program was sponsored in part by a grant from Paul Mitchell Salon Haircare.